Ankle pickers, welcome back. UFC 276. It is already Saturday afternoon. Dan and I are both not in Austin, but we're ready to roll through the card. Get excited for two title fights on this one. Dan, talk to me.
Yeah, it is exciting. I mean, it's International Fight Week. I definitely missed the days where there was multiple events this week, but the way that this card is stacked, there's really no complaints. It's going to be an awesome night of fights after a pretty awesome night of fights last night in the PFL.
5 o'clock early prelims, 7 o'clock prelim. I guess we should specify ESPN early prelims, 5 o'clock, prelims, 7 o'clock, and your main card pay per view on ESPN Plus, 9 p.m. Those are all Central Time. And we're back in the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. We're going to try to keep this one quick. Dan, preparing the whole card top to bottom. Start with the curtain jerker, early prelim. Jessica Rose Clark, Julia Stoliarenko, women's bantamweight.
Yeah, starting off the card hot. And if you're a longtime listener of our show, you know exactly where I'm coming here. We're taking the dog if we're taking this one. And there's good path to victory. I've got to be honest. Julia Stoliarenko, although she's on a 3-fight losing streak, has absolutely nasty arm bars. I definitely think that she's capable of catching Jessica Rose Clark here, especially if Jessica gets a little sloppy. And at that plus money, I'm seeing it all the way up at like plus 150. I think that that's a great number for just the straight play. And if you want to get cheeky with the sub, that is sitting over at I'm circling right around it plus 400 range, and that's a pretty likely outcome, I think, if our algorithm women's MMA is going to pan out in this one.
It's funny because we started just tracking the women dogs that won, and now we're like trying to pick how they're gonna win. But here we are, women's dogger pass. Next fight up the card, Jessica I and Macy Barber, women's flyweight.
Yeah, this is another one where obviously it's two fighters getting at a little bit different trajectory points in their career. Macy Barber, although she isn't what everyone expected when she came in, is still a pretty high level women's mixed martial artist. And although Jessica I has had a title shot, I've never really considered her super high level. But I do think that people are kind of looking past her here. Macy Barber is up at like minus 300, and that's just something I'm not comfortable paying on any woman's dog. The last time Macy Barber's line was this high, she popped her knee and a major dog cash, Roxanne Modafferi. And I'm not going to bet favorite money on someone that lost to Roxanne Modafferi ever. So this one's also a dogger pass here. And I think that Jessica I is a live dog. I think if Macy's planning on standing there and striking for the full 15 minutes, it'll be a really close fight and way closer than the line suggests.
Those are the only two women's fights on the card, and we don't have the number handy, but we're well into the green women's dogs in 2022. Talking about something like 25 units, betting five on each fight. So good info there. Middleweight bout, the last fight of the early prelims, Uriah Hall and Andre Muniz.
Yeah, this is a number one where the number is a little funky to me. Andre Muniz, as phenomenal as his jiu-jitsu is, and I do mean phenomenal. The guy is absolutely nasty. It feels like to me that that's his only path to victory. And a guy like that should not have like a minus 350, minus 400 price tag. And especially not against a veteran like Uriah Hall. And I recognize that Uriah Hall might not have that same kind of lightning in a bottle explosiveness that he showed debuting on Tough. And I mean, he's got a lot of highlight reel finishes and has highlight reel moments in almost every fight. And I think that he's going to be able to be a big problem for Andre if Andre can't get this to the ground pretty quickly. For the life of me, I don't understand anyone playing Andre Muniz straight. If you're going to play him by sub, it's around even money. You don't have to pay that minus 300. And I think I'm going to end up on the Uriah Hall side here. Plus 275, plus 280, plus 285 over on 5 dimes. That's a juicy number for a guy that's going to have the experience edge, who's got more paths to victory. And it really just feels like Andre's sub or bust. And he's gotten a couple in a row that has boosted the momentum. And clearly boosted the line.
Kind of a theme tonight, but it seems like you're kind of leaning on a lot of the dogs so far.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I was telling Cobey pre-show that I don't have a ton of plays on this card, and I'm leaning a lot of dogs. I like a lot of value, and I'm going to keep it light just because, I mean,
It's tougher to bet on dogs. Inherently, it is.
right.
Anyways, moving up the card, we're now into prelims, ABC prelims, curtain jerker, if we want to call it that. Brad Tavares and Dricus du Plessis.
Yeah, this is another interesting fight because I've gone back and forth on it. Brad Tavares has, like, I hesitate to say gatekeeper because I don't even know if he's there yet. He has some good wins on his record. I'm looking especially at the Shoeface win, Christoph Jotko, but the theme kind of looking down his record is anyone that's got really put together and complete striking and real power has given him crazy problems. Even Edmund Shabazian. And I think Dricus is one of those guys that just has crazy power and great striking. I mean, he turned Trevin Giles' lights out. Absolutely destroyed him. So I've come around to, I think Dricus is going to win. It's, again, I don't love that number. If you got it early in the week, I think it was at like around even or even plus money. But where it's sitting right now, minus 160, I'm not comfortable playing it. And I think that this is another one where the prop of the Dricus knockout is probably a better value than playing him straight. I don't see a lot of paths to victory for him, but I do think he catches Brad.
Fair enough. Next fight up the card, welterweight bout, Ian Gary and Gabe Green. This is one of two fights that I'm already in on, but more out of name value than actual analysis. So for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, Ian Gary is a guy that a lot of people are really supporting and are behind. And I'm not as high on as a prospect as a lot of people are. I recognize that he's 24 and there's a lot of great things to build upon. I think that there's going to be an opportunity to fade him. I don't think it's Gabe Green. Gabe Green has been around the block. I mean, he's kind of got a later start to the sport than Ian did. But I don't think that he is just on the same level as Ian Gary. And I think that the minus 170 that we're seeing, the minus 180 is a good price for Ian Gary and probably the lowest we're going to get. And I think there's going to be a good fade spot for him in the future. I'm not quite sold, but there's a lot there that he can build on and be great with. I think that this, though, is a great matchup for him. Just that Gabe Green is not going to I don't think he's better than him in almost any area.
I can confirm that obviously you've been saying it, but you're looking for a spot to fade Ian Gary, and that's kind of why I feel good placing this bet as the casual just reading you.
Because I like Ian Gary in this spot. I really do.
But you like him as a fade in the future, which means that he's got to get to the future in that fade spot.
Yeah. And I think that he's going to look really great today.
Anyways, next fight up the card is the other leg of that parlay. I'm also on Jim Miller, welterweight bout versus Donald Cerrone.
Yeah, and this one is just tough because these guys are legends. I never would have thought I would be backing Jim Miller against Cowboy Cerrone, but everything we've seen from Cowboy recently has just been tough. I mean, a couple of really hard weight cuts in a row, leading him to have to shave off all of his body hair, and then this fight being booked up at welterweight because of it. And that's not to say Jim Miller's like a natural welterweight. He's another guy that has fought at lightweight his entire career, and it's not going to be a crazy size advantage. But what we've seen from Jim Miller recently is just he's still a complete fighter with a lot going for him. And Cowboy seems to be just riding his name value into the sunset. That Alex Morona performance was really, really bad. It seems like if you're not willing to be Nico Price and show him a ton of respect and fight his fight because he's Cowboy doesn't really have much for you anymore. And I like Jim Miller in this spot a lot. I think he's going to come in there and hurt Cowboy.
Since I've been a real UFC fan following the sport, these are two totally different fighters, and I get they're both up there in age. But Jim Miller's been a competitive fighter. Cerrone's been knocked out in the first or second round in 4 of his last 6 fights.
Yep. And that Morona one was really, really a bad look. But shout out to the winner of this fight, whoever it is. Solo for the most UFC victories of all time. That's something that should not be looked over. It's really damn cool.
It is a cool moment in time. Brad Riddell, Jalen Turner next up the card at lightweight.
This is another one where I've gone back and forth pretty much all week. And it's because of how big of a Brad Riddell fan. I was backing him against Fiziev. That was not a great spot. But as a striking coach at City Kickboxing, you've got to have a lot of striking chops. And he definitely has that. The thing about Jalen Turner is I think he's just a much more complete fighter. He uses his length so well. Maybe he might use his length better than almost anyone in the UFC since like John Jones. But he works behind his jab incredibly. He's the much, much better grappler. He's tough as all hell. What was it? Was it Euros Medic fight where like his shoulder popped out and he fought the rest of the fight anyways and got the stoppage? I'm not sure. But yeah, I think that this is going to be Jalen Turner's biggest test since the Vicente Luque fight and right after his contender series. But that should show you exactly what the UFC thought about this guy. They gave him Vicente Luque after his contender series fight. I think he's going to pass the test here. He's just got more tools, more ways to win. And I think that we saw kind of the peak of Brad Riddell and really exactly what he can do in the Drew Dober fight. And Fiziev just showed that there was levels to this striking game and that Tiger Muay Thai beat City Kickboxing as much as it pains me to say that. But that I loved that fight, though. It was fun.
We are on to the main card. We have first fight on the main card being Pedro Munoz and Sugar Sean O'Malley bantamweight.
Yeah, so this is an interesting fight. Just I want to say stylistically, but not in the way that I usually do. It's not like one of those interesting striker grappler matchups. These guys are going to strike with each other. Pedro Munoz, I think in the last like 2 years, maybe 3 years, has landed the most calf kicks out of any fighter in any weight class in the UFC. And we know Sean O'Malley's history with that, which is really interesting. That being said, Pedro Munoz at this point in his career, at least from what we've seen with the Dominic Cruz, Jose Aldo, even going back to the Frankie Edgar split decision, a decision I thought he won, but it being a toss-up is a really bad look in 2020 fighting Frankie Edgar. But he's just so hittable. And a guy like Sean O'Malley, who's got the movement, who has got the speed advantage, can really emulate a Dominic Cruz style fight. And I think he's going to style on Pedro. I think he's going to hit him a ton. If you're like a DraftKings DFS player, I think Sean O'Malley is one of the more popular picks today, and for good reason. I think he's going to land a lot of strikes at range and just kind of not be there for Pedro's counters. The interesting thing is what I mentioned about the calf kick game, because, I mean, I feel like Sean O'Malley could be styling for 2.5 rounds and maybe one calf kick does it, like Chito Vera. But it's tough to say a guy has like chinny calves after one moment like that. I mean, it happened to Cejudo and it's never happened again. It's just a weird way that fight ended, but it's created this interesting storyline. So whatever.
Either way, it should be an absolutely electric fight to watch. We'll get back to it when we roll back up the card for plays. Second fight on the main card, Robbie Lawler and Brian Barberena.
Yeah, Robbie Lawler.
Here to talk about his boy Robbie Lawler.
Yeah, that does make me sad because it might be the very last time too. I hope not, but Robbie clearly showed he's still got that fighting spirit in a different way. I mean, Nick Diaz came and just really didn't look like Nick Diaz. He was slow, and Robbie was able to really put him out there and hurt him. It is an interesting matchup with Brian Barberena. just I've not been so impressed by Brian Barberena. His loss to Jason Witt was pretty unimpressive. Taking Darian Weeks to a decision is pretty unimpressive. And the Matt Brown split decision, I had it for Matt Brown. So I might be too low on Barberena here, but I kind of like the Robbie Lawler side at even money. I'm seeing it minus 105 on 5 dimes, and I think that that's a little bit of value for a guy who's got all the tools in his tool case, all of the experience in the world. It might be a bad sign with Rory McDonald, a guy Robbie's going to be connected with for their entire careers. Lost last night on a controversial unanimous decision. Some 30-27s in there that were absolutely ridiculous, but I think this is a good matchup for Robbie Lawler to maybe put a couple wins in a row at the end of his career.
Yeah. Either way, feels good to maybe put some money on Robbie one last time.
Always.
Hard to think that there's going to be another time where he's going to be in a spot where you really think he's got a chance one way or another. But
right.
Who knows?
I think that this is a great matchup for him too.
Sean Strickland, Alex Pereira, middleweight. And
this fight is so
probably next in line for whoever wins Izzy versus Cannonier coming up.
I'm crazily excited for this fight. And it's a lot to do with Sean Strickland. I know that he was spewing a lot of stuff at the press conference, and there are some casuals that are tuning into this fight to see the crazy man and see what he's going to do. But I'm more interested in how crazy he's going to be with this game plan. I think I said to Reese during the set the spread that if Sean Strickland shoots a takedown around or completes a takedown around, he should be minus 500, minus like 800 range. It's Alex's third MMA fight of his career. And I'm looking at like a Sean Strickland by sub that's like plus 900, plus 1,000. It's really getting up there. And that's an interesting number. It's not where I ended up landing on this. I was telling, I think, Cobey, you yesterday that this fight is an all-time, do I follow my brain or my gut? My brain is saying Sean Strickland has the tools. Sean Strickland has the experience. Sean Strickland is going to be able to avoid that kiss of death left hand that Alex Pereira has. But my gut said, no, he's not. He's going to sleep. And I think Alex Pereira is going to catch him. I do think it's going to be one of those left hooks that he makes look devastating in the kickboxing scene. And 4-ounce gloves, Alex Pereira is a dangerous man, really dangerous man. I'm looking at the Pereira by knockout line, and it's not great. It's plus 175, and we're looking at a plus 110, plus 105 on just Alex straight, and you get that decision line. So I think that's actually going to be where my money ends up. Maybe a sprinkle of like a half unit or a quarter unit on that knockout line. But I think Alex Pereira catches him. I think Sean Strickland's just big-headedness is going to get to him here. I think he's going to spend at least the first round trying to strike with this guy who everyone and their mother has told him, don't strike with this guy. He might be the most dangerous striker in the world. And Sean's going to do it because that's who Sean is. And I think it's going to be fun, but I don't think it's going to be a good game plan for him. So I'm excited to take Alex.
2 title fights left, and then we'll run through the card bottom to top one more time to finalize the card betting slate. Co-main, Volk and Holloway for the featherweight strap. The third time these guys are going at it. We've seen 10 rounds of action.
Yeah, the third time makes it harder to find value just because it seems like it's really been hammered out to a point where everyone in the public's comfortable. If you're on one side, you're comfortable. If you're on the other side, you're comfortable. And I've got so much respect for both these guys. Max Holloway is one of the most talented, most entertaining, seemingly most friendly guys on the entire UFC roster. And I think I had Alexander Volkanovski as my pound for pound number 1. So that just shows exactly the esteem I hold these guys in. And a third running it back for the third time, I couldn't be happier to watch it tonight. But I think I'm going to be on the Holloway side. I'm looking at these plus 175, plus 170 numbers, And I remember it being just razor thin last time, and especially those first 2 rounds where Max dropped Alex. Max looked like he was going to cruise. And obviously Alex is known and is one of the best of all time in terms of in-octagon adjustments and in terms of shifting his game plan to really give his opponents a new look and something that they weren't expecting and something that he's going to find an advantage. And that could for sure happen. I think that Alex could easily beat him from bell to bell. I that could happen, but I see this being really close, and I see that Max Holloway plus money plus 170 line, and it's just too enticing for me to stay away from. I think this is going to be a really close fight again, and yeah, it's that's coming from my brain. My gut says that something weird's going to happen and the under's going to hit, but I really came around to that being more of just a feeling than anything else and less explainable than the Pereira gut feeling than that I just elaborated on.
And I think that you were on Volk both the first 2 times this got fought, correct? Because I
was definitely a better of Volk both of the first 2 times this got fought. I don't know what that says, that I've come to the other side or found the value or whatever it is. I think that Max is as skilled as a fighter as it comes, and so is Volk. It's a tough one to pick for that reason. And there's a reason Volkanovski hasn't lost since like 2015 at welterweight.
Definitely. Main event time. Israel Adesanya and Jared Cannonier. Izzy, one of your favorite fighters in the UFC, one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. There's a reason why he's headlining.
271 shirt on, Izzy on my back. It's a great day.
There's a reason why he's headlining, the July 4th weekend International Fight Week card, and it's because he's one of the most popular guys in the UFC, and he's got another title on the line, this time against Jared Cannonier.
Yeah, you said it, and this is a awesome matchup for Izzy. I don't expect Jared to come out and really try and grapple. I don't think that Jared is as good of a striker as Whitaker, as Vettori, maybe even as Paulo Costa, and then that's a interesting take, but I don't think that Jared Cannonier has much for Izzy. One side that I'm looking at that's enticing me a little bit, is the under 3.5. I'm seeing that at close to even or even plus 115. I think that Izzy's going to hurt him and really be able to touch him up. And I think that if Jared has success here, it's because he lands a big punch on the button, and it's something that Izzy doesn't expect, and maybe Izzy gets hurt. But I mean, we really haven't seen Izzy hurt since, like, I won't even say he was hurt in the Calvin Gastelum fight. It was back and forth, but Izzy had his wits about him. I don't see this one hitting the cards, is all I'll say.
As I'm listening to you break that one down and, tailor your point to maybe liking an under 3.5, I was looking up the Izzy by decision line. I feel like we've seen him now multiple fights in a row, fight smart, kind of stay at range and point Robert Whitaker to death, point Marvin Vettori to death. I mean, we didn't learn much from the Yan fight, but it kind of irrelevant. I don't know. I know that Cannonier obviously throws bombs. Izzy has his fair share of electric knockouts, but I don't know.
Interesting.
My opinion is a lot less, research than yours, so take it with a grain of salt. But
I definitely thought that the under 2.5 was going to be near plus money, and getting an extra round on that, I think, is a little bit of a gift, even if it doesn't go so much. I mean, even the under 4.5 at like minus 110, minus 112, I'm seeing a couple places. That's a good number.
Probably does enough to take me off of Izzy by decision for whatever that's worth. But want to work bottom to top, finalize a card?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I've still got a couple things bouncing around in the old noggin here. You can always follow me at Bet MMA Tips. I'm DanKwagers, always giving the dankest of wagers. And everything will be final there, obviously, before the card. I'll post it on my Twitter. I'll repost it at Ankle Pick. So you won't miss it, but let's run through what I'm looking at.
Still Urenko, Rose Clark, or Jessica Rose Clark.
I'm passing both women's fights. I
Okay.
know that we're gonna track them for our algorithm system, but I'm not intrigued.
Uriah Hall, you were leaning against Andre Muniz, the early prelim main event.
I think I'll have a unit on Uriah Hall, and it's kind of a hold your nose and place here. I'm a big Andre Muniz fan. I kind of wanted to place Andre Muniz by sub at that even money, but I think it's just as likely as Uriah Hall winning, and Uriah Hall is going to be plus 270 versus even money on two outcomes I think are equally likely.
Tavares Duplessis.
It's a pass for me. If you got Duplessis earlier in the week, props to you, but I can't touch it at 160.
Ian Gary, Gabe Green.
I like Ian Gary here, and that's one of the things that's bouncing around. I think I'm going to end up having a small play on the favorite side here in Ian Gary. Won't really look to get creative, but I like the Ian Gary side. I really do.
Jim Miller and Cowboy Cerrone.
I'm going to stay away from this one. Not because I don't like the Jim Miller side. I think there's just so many question marks. I don't think I've ever seen Jim Miller up at 170. It's just going to be interesting.
Fair enough. Brad Riddell, Jalen Turner.
I like the Jalen Turner side. This is a play I'm going to have. Especially I think it's bounced around a couple times today. I'm seeing it down at like the 140 range. That's a number I like a ton. 145 on DraftKings and FanDuel. So that's a place I think I'm going to end up being. And if you want to get cheeky in that one, Jalen Turner in round one could be some cheekiness because Brad Riddell is a slow starter and Jalen is a fast starter.
Pedro Munoz, Sean O'Malley. Main event now. Main
This
card.
is a pass. I think that if you've got a strong second leg, Sean O'Malley can be included in parlays. I'm comfortable. I haven't seen what I want to see from Pedro Munoz. I'm excited for Sean getting a ranked opponent, but I don't think that Pedro's like the end-all be-all.
Lawler, Barberena.
Another one bouncing around, nothing official yet. I have not decided. I like the Lawler side. Just so many question marks again of where Lawler's at mentally. And I don't say that like he's shown lapses in judgment or game plan or anything. It's just this sport catches up to you.
Strickland Pereira.
I'm on Alex here. I'm on Alex. I like the plus 110, 115, maybe a sprinkle on that knockout, but 4-ounce gloves, Alex Pereira, left hand Larry. Oh my gosh. I just can't imagine standing in front of him, and I think Sean's going to do that.
Volk Holloway 3.
Volk Holloway 3. Oh my gosh. I'm just pumped. That's my reaction here. I don't think I have a play. I was looking at the under all week. I was looking at max. I like the max number. The more that I think about it, I'm gonna want to just watch this as a fan. Maybe a live play, and I really I want to play max. I can't do it. Volk is it. I've never seen a hole.
Yeah, can't wait for that one. I like how you said maybe a live play. It's kind of one that you're just going to be watching closely, and we'll see.
Right.
So, Izzy and Jared Cannonier.
Izzy's another leg I'm comfortable with in your parlays. At this point, the minus 500 is too big. Especially for a guy. I'm not going to say like I expect Jared to come out here and wrestle, but we've seen that Izzy has holes in his game. Minus 500 it's kind of a ridiculous number. I think it was like minus 350, minus 360 last week, and it's just jumped. Izzy fight week there's hype for good reason. I mean, Israel Adesanya is, in my opinion, the face of the UFC right now, and I think he'll have a great performance. I like that knockout. I like that number, that under. That's actually bouncing around still. I still kind of like that under. Maybe if I can get a cheeky fight, doesn't go the distance at like minus 125, minus 130, I might jump on that and just give myself the full 25. But I expect Izzy to put on a show for International Fight Week. I really do.
Yep. You said it best a couple minutes ago, but hype for good reason.
Mhm.
Can't wait for this one. We can close it up right there. Dan, take us away with the Poha on International Fight Week.
Yes, sir. Here we go. Iso Poha.